Well, welcome back. We will be starting Unit 3, Lesson 7, moving on to equivalent fractions or decimals. This is page 103 in your textbook. Let's just start out by looking at what we have here, and we have what they call fraction bars. And what it's showing us here is that this fraction bar here, 5 out of 6 parts are shaded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you were to split the 5, each part into 2 equal parts, now you would have 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and there would be 10 12s. Um, 5 times 2 equals 10, 6 times 2 equals 12. We have more, but smaller parts. And then going on, and if you were to take these parts and split them into 3, 1, 2, 3, you would have now 5 times 3, 15, 6 times 3, 18. Again, we have more but smaller parts, and so on. If you do a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you would now have 20. 5 times 4 is 20. 6 times 4 is 24. You would have 20 over 24. But 20 over 24, 15 over 18, 10 over 12, and 5 over 6 are all equivalent. The fraction bar is equivalent for each one. And that's what it's showing here, 20. So now down below, it's the same thing. 5 times 4 is 20. 6 times 4 is 24. Now, it says you can make equivalent fractions by multiplying, or you can do it by dividing. So in this case, if you have 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then if you wanted to simplify it, you could circle the 2, or divide by 2. Divide by 2. What you do to your numerator, you always do to your denominator, 5, 6, which is 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 6 is 12. Opposite of multiplication is division. So by circling, you're showing that you're dividing by 2 and simplifying your fraction. In your black notebook, go ahead and write equivalent fraction. And in the definition, fractions that represent the same number. Example, 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6. Copy that down, please. All right, now using a multiplication table, which is kind of cool to see equivalent fractions. So in front of you, you have just a typical multiplication table. Again, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 7 is 14. But now watch this. If you have the fraction 5 over 6, 5 6 is equivalent to 10 12s, which is equivalent to 15 over 18, which is equivalent to 20 over 24, and so on, which is kind of cool. So here you have all the way up to 45 over 54 times 9. So the next part here in your black notebook, it wants you to use that multiplication table and write the equivalent fractions for 3/5 and 4/7. So I'm just going to split my screen here, and so you have the multiplication table in front of you. And go ahead and write number 1, 3/5, and number 2, 4/7. Now watch this. If you look over here on the left, you have 3, and then you have 5 right there. 3/5, 6/10, 9/15, 12/20, 15/25, and so on. Now I'm going to switch to yellow here, and let's look at 4/7. So in between, you have the 4/7, the 4, excuse me, and then here's the 7ths. So watch. 4/7 is equivalent to 8 over 14, which is equivalent to 12 over 21, 16 over 28, 20 over 35, and so on. So it's just showing you how a multiplication table can help you find equivalent fractions, not just basic multiplication. I'm going to go back to a full screen here, and we're going to move on. Let me move that out of the way. By the way, 1 and 2 was on, I think, 104. All right, so now what happens here? We have page 105, 105. If you have fractions that do not have a common denominator. So we have to find a common denominator, and there's a couple different ways to do this. In your black notebook, let's look at what Joanne's solution was to this problem. 4/5 plus 3/10. Um, as you look at the denominators, you want to see what you need to multiply by. So 4/5 plus 3/10. Um, to get from 5 to 10, you multiply by 2. So what you do to your bottom number, you must do to your top. So 5 times 2 is 10, and 4 times 2 would be 8, plus the 3/10 you have already. So you have 8/10 plus 3/10 is 11/10, and then you have to change your improper fraction or your improper fraction into a mixed number. That's just one way of doing it. I'm going to show you the way I like to set it up off to the side here. Go ahead and set it up this way as well. I like to set it up like this: 4/5 plus 3/10, and then I draw a line right here, and then I make an equivalent fraction. Now you're going to be focusing on the 5 and the 10, and you want to find the common denominator. 5 and 10, hopefully you realize the common denominator is 10, and 3/10 is equivalent to 3/10. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. You multiply 5 times 2 to get 10, and what you do to the denominator, you must do to the numerator. 4 times 2 is 6. Did I do that right? I did not do that right. What part did I do wrong? Oh, I'm sorry, that's what I did wrong. 4 times 2 is not 6. 4 times 2 is 8. I was just testing you. So now 8 plus 3 is 11 over 10. And then to change what we call a improper fraction into a mixed number, your denominator goes into your numerator. And 10 goes into 11 once, with a remainder, of 1 over your denominator, 1 and 1/10 as a mixed number, which is what they said right here. Here's another way. Mark's solution says take 5 times 2, which is basically the same thing, 10. 4 times what number then? 5 times 2 is 10, so 4 times 2 is 8. And then over here it says 4/5 plus 3/10 equals 8/10 plus 3/10, and 8 plus 3 is 11/10, and 1 1/10. It says to compare, add, or subtract two fractions when the denominator of one is a factor of the denominator of the other. Change the fractions with the lesser denominator to an equivalent fraction that uses the greatest denominator. So basically what I thought that meant is this what we did. Let's move on. All right, so now here we have another example of addition with decimals. 0.2 plus 0.03. It's 2/10 and it's 3/100. 2/10 is closer to getting a 1 than 3/100. But really, if you think about it, 2/10, if you think about it, 2/10 is 2 dimes, and that's also equivalent to 20 pennies. So 2/10 is really 20/100. So then if you line them up, you have 0.20 plus 0.03, 3/100, which would be 23/100. It goes on to say that to compare, add, or subtract decimals with different numbers or places, put zeros on the end of the decimal, which is what you did, with fewer places to make the number of decimal places in the two numbers equal. So that's why you added that 0. So let's do 3. Maybe do, let's just start with 3. Copy this problem down if you would. 0.07 greater than, less than, or equal to 0.4. Again, 7/100, 4/10, or 40/100 if you add a 0. 4/100 is larger than 7/100, so 4/10 is larger than 7/100. Same thing with number 4. Copy it down. 0.1 greater than, less than, or equal to 0.06. 6/100, 10/10, or 1/10, excuse me. Or you could have a 0 here. Again, 1/10 is larger than 6/100. Now, with fractions, there's a simple procedure that I like to do, and it's called cross multiplication. You could also look at 2/5 and 8/5 8/15. Half of 5 is 2.5. Half of 15 is 7.5. So 8 is more than half, and 2 is less than half. So you know that 8/15 is greater than 2/5. But here's what I like to do with cross multiplication. 5 times 8, denominator times the numerator, is 40. 15 times 2 is 30, and 40 is greater than 30. Let's try that again over here with number 6. Copy it down, please. 4 times 8 is 32. 12 times 3 is 36. And you know that 36 is greater than 32, so 3/4 is greater than 8/12. Just a quick way of greater than, less than, or equal to when you're dealing with fractions. Let's go ahead and work number 7 here, and I'm just going to copy it and paste it on another page. Oops, that's not the right one. Let's try that again. Copy it and paste it on another page, make it easier to work. All right, so here we have it. We have 5, 6 minus 11 over 24, 11/24. Denominators are not alike. I like to set it up like this. 5, 6 minus 11 over 24, and find a common denominator equivalent to what common denominator. You're focusing in on the 6 and the 24, and hopefully you recognize that 6 goes into 24, so there's your common denominator. Then it's 11/24 is equal to 11/24. 6 times 4 is 24. 5 times 4 is 20, and now I can subtract 11 from 20 is 9/24. Now, this is your answer, but it's always good to simplify, and I recognize that a 3 can come out of the 9, and a 3 can come out of the 24. 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. So really that's your final answer of 3/8. All right, let's go back to number 10. Let me just isolate it. And go ahead and copy this in your black notebook. 4/5, 17/30. Again, I like to set it up like this. 4/5 plus 17/30. Find a common denominator, common or equivalent fraction. 5 and 30. Hopefully you recognize that 5 goes into 30. So there's your common denominator, 17. 5 times 6, so 4 times 6 is 24. I'm adding, so now 4 and 7 is 11, carried a 1, and 41. So my answer is 41/30. Now we can't leave it as 41/30 because 41 is larger than 30, and this would be called an improper fraction. So we have to change it to what we call a mixed number by taking the denominator, which becomes your divisor, and taking it into your numerator. And 30 goes into 41 just once, with a remainder of 11. And then your divisor becomes your denominator. And then this is your final answer, 1 and 11/20. All right, one more page and then we're done for tonight. It says, what's the error? Dear math student, and this is, I believe, I don't know where it's at. Let me just check the next page. 106. Dear math student, my friend Wendy has a pizza party. After the party, she had 1/3 of a cheese pizza left. She also had 1/6 of a pepperoni pizza. I told Wendy that together she has 2/9 of a whole pizza left. She says that this can't be right. Can you help me figure out my mistake? How much of a whole pizza does Wendy have? Well, if you look up here, cheese is 1/3. Pizza is 1/6. Now, if you look, denominators are not alike. We want to know the total amount left, so we have to add it, and then I like to set it up like this again, and find a common denominator. 3 and 6, hopefully recognize it's 6. 3 times 2, 1 times 2. And then you end up with 3, 6, which is equivalent to 1/2. So she has half a pizza left. Or he has half a pizza left. Now, Um, Notice that the Puzzle Penguin said 2/9. I told Wendy that together she has 2/9. Now the answer is 3/6 or 1/2. If you look at 1/3 and you look at 1/6, you can see that they just took the 1 plus the 1 and made it 2, and the 3 plus the 6 and made it 9, which is not correct. So in response, write an answer to Puzzle Penguin. Oops, I thought I had an answer there. Maybe I don't. You would write it up as you write it back to Puzzle Penguin that they added the numerator and they added the denominator when they should have found a common denominator of 6 and found out that, and then find out that that your final answer would be 3 out of 6 instead of 2 out of 9. So write your answer up like that. Tomorrow in class we will work on the homework piece of this. And if you have questions, please do ask in class. But again, now we're dealing with fractions that do not have a common denominator, which is different than adding fractions with common denominators.